Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Monday, January the 5th. And as we like to do once a week, we'll be chatting with our good friend Bill Katz, the editor of Urgent Agenda. We have a lot to get into today. We have Iran, things happening in Iran. You have the situation in Venezuela, of course, a new mayor in New York City, and the politics, excuse me, the politics back home, they never stop. So let me say Happy New Year to our friend Bill. Bill, welcome as always, and let's get this new year underway.
I hope we do. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. And did you stay up to watch the big celebration there in New York?
Well, traditionally people do, and we watch the ball, and we had to watch further because I think they did it twice. It was hard to figure out exactly what they were doing, but they did the usual ball and Happy New Year and Old Lang Syne and all that other stuff, and then they did it again for the 250th anniversary of the United States, and that will be a continuing feature in New York for a while. Very confusing because there are people running New York who probably wish the United States never came into existence.
Right, that's right. Well, that's going to be our first topic today. You have a new mayor,
Yes.
and I watched a little bit of his inauguration. He's a good speaker. I'll give him that. But I thought that, as I mentioned to you off the air, there were songs that they were singing that I was not familiar with, Bill.
Right. Yeah.
Normally these inaugurations are pretty traditional.
Yes. Oh, yes.
You get somebody to sing, God Bless America, the national anthem, maybe
And
New York,
New
what
York,
a
New
wonderful
York.
place. Yeah. But here, I was hearing stories and hearing songs that honestly I was not familiar with. I mean, there's one lady who was singing a song called the Labor Hymn. Is
Oh
that,
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
believe? So,
They were. It was not a normal inauguration because half the people there were probably wishing the United States never existed. I
right,
mean,
exactly.
there was no doubt about the left wing fringe being present.
And I understand, again, you hear a lot of stuff, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I understand that people were complaining because the food wasn't free.
Well, they were complaining about a lot of things. One of which is that once you went in, they wouldn't let you out.
Oh,
So people did not have the usual facilities available to them. It was not a fan friendly event. I mean, they didn't seem to care very much about the people who were there, and that's fairly left wing in my book.
yeah.
And as far as the inauguration itself, I'm curious about one thing about this new mayor. From what I remember, now I may not remember accurately, wasn't he the candidate in this last election of the Democratic Party? He said he's going to run, he's going to govern as a Democratic socialist. Well, wait a minute. He's on that ballot as a candidate of the Democratic Party.
Right.
That phrase was never used. Nobody, he never mentioned a thing. In fact, most of the major Democrats in New York weren't even there. I'm not even sure they were invited. They but there is a Democratic Party somewhere. I think it's in the phone book. I think
That's
you can find it. But they it kind of disappeared, and yet that is the main item that where he appeared on the ballot, the Democratic Party of New York.
Yeah. I just think, Bill, that he is going to become, because of his personality, he is a very telegenic kind of guy. So I think because of his personality and frankly, how boring all the other Democrats are. I mean,
Oh
imagine
yes.
if you're a reporter and you get to interview Mandani or Schumer, who are you going to take? Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, or if you're a reporter and you get to interview, I don't know, Mandani and some council president or something,
Yes.
you're going to go with Mandani. I mean, the guy's interesting to say the least from a
Yes.
reporter standpoint. He'll
Yes.
give you lots of lines to quote.
His wife is interesting also.
His wife
Is
is interesting,
she's
and I heard some very interesting things. Again, just picking it up in the media reports that this Democrat socialist couple has good taste in fashions.
Oh, and very expensive taste in
Yes, that's
fashions.
right.
People forget the fact that he comes from an extremely wealthy family. He's no peasant to the White House kind of guy.
No,
His wife, according to a press report here, was wearing $650 boots, which most of the people in the audience were not wearing. And she apparently takes the party line when she's not wearing her $650 boots.
right. Yeah, I heard that too, and but she's also very telegenic and attractive, and I suppose
Yes.
she'll get a lot of interviews as well. But of course, the real question is, how does he govern? And we got a little bit of it, the taste of it, when he called President Trump to give him foreign policy advice, which is, I'm sure,
Yes.
what every mayor has done in the history of New York.
Yes.
They all call President Trump and say, "I disagree with what you did in Venezuela." We'll get into Venezuela in a minute, but I just thought that was, that was,
It was completely inappropriate. I
yeah,
mean, I understand he is the mayor of New York. I don't know if he understands what the limitations are, but he was not elected to conduct the foreign policy of the United States.
no.
And
Last I checked, New York doesn't have a foreign policy.
no, well, it now does. I guarantee you, it now does,
Yeah,
and it's one that's usually associated with the former Soviet Union.
right.
That's
I just, I have to tell you that this is
Mm.
laughable, a lot of this stuff, but it is really hard to believe that on the 25th anniversary of 9/11, coming up pretty soon here, well, 9 months, but I mean, that time flies, that he's going to be the one representing the city of New York, and some of the characters that he appointed
yes.
are also going to be on that stage. And you have to really wonder, gee, did we win that incident or did the other
Well,
side
well,
win?
that's
Because,
that's the point. I mean, it's going to be very, very embarrassing,
yeah,
and I think a lot of people may not show up for that reason.
a lot of
You
Democrats
know,
probably won't
yes,
show
that's
up.
right. They don't want to be photographed with some of these guys.
And I think that by mid-year, they're going to take his photo and they're going to force every Democrat to at least explain whether they agree or disagree with the
Yes,
mayor.
that's if
Uh,
the mayor is still the mayor.
yes.
Strange things happen in politics. Where the government of New York's state, the governor of New York, actually has control over the mayor. She can actually remove the mayor. That's the kind of structure we have here in New York. I don't think she will because the mayor has a lot of friends in Albany called the state legislature,
Right.
or uh, what do they call the old Stalinist thing?
Well, whatever they call it. Yeah.
Whatever
But I
they
mean, he's got
call
a
it.
lot of friends
Yes.
who are going to go to bat for him because I don't think Governor Hochul is that popular
No.
in the state, even though, she may get reelected just because it's New York. But I think we're going to keep an eye on this fellow, Bill, because as I said, I watched a little bit of it out of interest. I think it's the first time I've ever seen an inauguration out of a New York City mayor. First time I recall seeing it.
Yeah. Well, nobody
And
usually cares.
no, and even if you do, you got other things to do like football games and stuff like
That's
that to
right.
watch, or eating leftovers on that day. But I just find, I mean, some of the characters who were there, some of the speeches, you kind of got the feeling that this is not your dad's Democrat Party.
Oh
The
no,
old
not
expression,
not at all. Not
or
at all.
I wouldn't even say your dad's. It's certainly not Franklin Roosevelt's Democrat Party. I'll tell you
Yeah.
that right now.
Well, nobody mentioned him. I mean, there was a time when a Democratic incumbent or a Democratic candidate was being inaugurated for the post. They would say, "And in the great tradition of Jack Kennedy and Franklin Roosevelt and Harry Truman." No, they're gone. They are not entities that exist in the minds of these people.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. It's a different party, and I don't think it's good for the Democrats to go in that direction, but that's how they're going to go. Well, let's talk a little bit about let's talk about Iran first before we get to Venezuela. Some wild things are happening on the streets of Iran, and
Right.
President Trump has threatened to do something. I remember back in 2009. In fact, we were doing shows back then when there was a situation like this too, where there were people in the streets and they used firepower against these people, and President Obama didn't do anything. He just basically walked away from it, or didn't
That
even get
I
involved. And
remember.
I don't think he even said anything about it. And
He didn't at first, and then he was very severely criticized because the demonstrations in Iran were genuine. I mean, they wanted the government out, and it took Obama 4 days to get to a microphone to give some half-hearted support to the people of Iran, and then let's move on.
right,
Because the people demonstrating in Iran were demonstrating against the government, and he was for the government.
right. But now from what I've seen on the streets and the videos that I've seen, the demonstrations are pretty wild. I mean, they're pretty
Well,
massive. And
yes,
there's a rumor that the head guy is moving out of town or fleeing to Russia. Did you hear that?
yeah, there was a rumor that he was negotiating to get safely out of Iran. That has happened before,
Okay,
where Iranian leaders have been given safe passage out. If that happened, then Iran would have essentially no government, and that's when you would really find out who people really are,
right.
because that would give them a chance for the first time in years to get a truly elected government.
Right, that's right. Now, President Trump has threatened to hit him hard, as he says. Not exactly sure what that means, but could you see? I remember back when they had those demonstrations back in 2009, that Senator McCain, who had lost the election a few months before, was saying that we should take out their navy, that we
Yes,
should use or maybe take out their refineries, and use some harsh military action. That's what Senator McCain back then was recommending, and I
yes.
actually agreed with him. I thought McCain was right on target. Can you see President Trump doing something like that,
I
Bill?
can under certain circumstances, because one of the things that is a bit odd right now in the minds of some is that with Venezuelans in the United States cheering to get rid of the government, he has installed, at least we think he has. It's all very vague. The vice president of the government that we just opposed. And people are wondering, well, is she on our side or not? Or is she on the
Right,
side of the old regime? I think that's one of the main questions being asked right now. Who are we trying to install there? And he said, well, if they don't do what we want them to do, there'll be a lot of pain. And you install someone and then threaten to remove them. That's the part that a lot of people don't quite follow.
right.
Now there has to be some kind of a plan. I'm sure there is a plan. Exactly how it will play out, I don't know.
Well, they have to change their tactics, obviously, because the Venezuelans would be ready for an attack. I mean, they're probably all spread out. They're not going to be
Yes.
in one place, so tactics would have to change. But but I can see Trump. I mean, I'd like to. Let me put it this way: I would love to see Trump getting back to Iran before we get to Venezuela. I would love to see Trump hit him very hard
Oh yes.
and
Oh
take out
yes.
their refineries
I,
and
I wrote an article about that at the Urgent Agenda today, that we have a decision to make involving Iran. And that
yes.
is, if we do not hit them hard now, they will simply continue to develop their nuclear weapons, which they are now almost bragging about,
Hmm.
and to develop, equally important, the intercontinental missiles that will be able to carry those weapons eventually to the United States. And they have made it very plain in statement after statement after statement that they have no intention of negotiating with us. They will not do anything to stop their military programs or their missile programs. And they are basically gambling that we'll do nothing to stop them, that there'll be some tough words, and that will be it. But if they are accurate, if they're telling the truth now, that they will do nothing to accommodate us in our negotiation with Iran, then we have a very painful decision to make. And that decision could involve not only the future of Iran, but the future of the United States as well.
Right. Well, I would rather take them out and rather than run a chance with them, and if that means another very serious military attack, I would support that because I've been favoring. I mean, I was in favor of that back in 2009
Sure.
when the streets were full of people. And remember the story of the young woman who was killed.
Oh yes, sure.
Remember that story? That got a
Yes.
lot of publicity. I forgot the young woman's name, but there was a video of her being shot in the streets, and she became kind of the victim or the symbol of that whole movement. So I like to see action, and the one thing I can say is if there's a guy out there or a president out there who is willing, as we will talk about now in Venezuela, who's willing to take action, it's President Trump. Now, the attack in Iran would be completely different
Oh
because it
yes.
would be more concentrated on military targets,
Yes.
which but that could also break the back of the regime because it could turn the army against them if they see
Yes.
themselves, being attacked, saying,
Yes.
"Hey, why are we being attacked? We're not going to support those people anymore." So I think there's a lot of stuff going on in the background with Iran that we're not familiar with. I understand this the son of the Shah or whatever his name is.
Yes.
I think he's got a formal
Pavlovi.
right, whatever he's got a
Yeah.
formal title. He's been involved in it as well, and I
Well,
just
he's been supporting the rioters in Iran right now, who are out on the streets,
right,
and they're out on the streets in part because conditions in Iran have deteriorated so much. They can't even get fresh water. They
right,
can't get anything. They the people have nothing, and food is in short supply, and the Ayatollah cannot do much about it because
hmm
nothing is available. He is presiding over a government that is almost broke, and obviously conditions are ripe to some kind of change.
right. Well, take out his refineries, and he'll really be broke.
He Yes,
That I can tell you.
and he doesn't have a Barack Obama in the White House who would come to his aid, as Obama shamefully did during
Yes.
his.
Yeah. That was that nuclear deal. That
Oh, sure,
gosh, that was a mistake. But
very much
anyway,
so.
hopefully there can be change without the U.S. having to take out military installations. But if we have to take out military installations, let's do it. I'm all for that right now. Actually, I'm all for that. Before we talk about Venezuela, we were just talking about Iran. Over the last year or so, we have seen the U.S. armed forces do two of the most amazing military operations, uh, probably in the history of the armed forces, maybe in the history of military. And I just think it's remarkable the talent and professionalism of these men and women who are flying these planes and there's helicopters. I mean, the precision in Venezuela has to be almost perfect to carry that out. I mean, there was
Oh
no
yes,
margin of error, and yet these guys did it.
yes, they
I think
did.
it's something to be proud of,
Oh,
Bill.
with incredible military ability and precision that I think should scare the wits out of any enemy of the United States, like
I
Iran.
hope so. I hope
Um,
so. Yeah.
but now
Yeah.
the lefties are coming out in force in Congress saying, "What right do we have to do that?" Well, the right stems from the fact that the Venezuelan government has been behind the drugs that are being poured into the United States and that are poisoning our children. That's the right we have.
And they've also turned their country into a training ground for all of our enemies.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, when you have Hezbollah and Iran and all these terrorist organizations basically, in Venezuela, I mean, we have every right to defend ourselves. I mean, I don't understand the argument from the left saying that Trump is acting outside of the Constitution. Well, anytime they start with that little argument, I turn it
Yes.
off because, I
Yes.
mean, come on. I mean, there's plenty of. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't President Kennedy do a naval blockade of Cuba
Oh,
and
yes.
take the U.S. armed forces to almost a nuclear level
Oh,
before
sure.
he told Congress anything?
Oh, sure. I mean, it was the Uh, I was there. I was in the Central Intelligence Agency during that period, and people forget that this country has not declared war since 1941. The
Correct.
declaration of war is basically a formality. And it was later realized that because of the speed of modern warfare and communications, you couldn't wait for Congress to declare war to take action.
Right, right.
And so they did develop things like the War Powers Act, which would require the president who was taking the action to inform Congress. I think how many days was it under the War Powers Act? Within 30 days of what he was doing and get their approval. But the
Well, they have 90
idea,
days to inform Congress. I think they've got 90 days, but Bill, if I may interrupt you for a second, the War Powers Act has never been signed by a president, to my
apparently not.
knowledge. I think it passed Congress, but I don't think it was ever accepted by any president. So it's more along the lines of a resolution than an
Yes.
actual law signed, because I don't think any president has ever signed it.
Yeah. Well,
That's I could be
they
wrong
have
about
they
that.
have yeah they have mechanisms in place to inform members of Congress, but
Sure.
not necessarily before the action. I mean, the idea that they would have to go to Congress for permission to conduct a secret military operation, you know how long it would be secret for? About an
Right.
hour.
That's
I
it.
mean, you can see all the Democrats in Congress rushing to MSNBC to reveal that we were about to destroy the world.
Well, they would do a video telling the army, don't follow illegal orders
Yes.
or something like that. But yeah, I mean, as a practical matter, you cannot go to the Congress and get permission or approval for something like this. Uh, so I mean, all this criticism of President Trump is pretty silly, I think.
Oh, it is. Yeah, the president has the power to do what he did, um, because first of all, he was not starting a war. He was
Right?
engaged in a military action to take out people who first of all were already
Sure.
indicted by the United States, and whose everyday actions were hurting, especially American children.
Right, and also on top of that, and as I said before, they had turned the country over into a cartel subsidiary,
Yes.
and then you have these associations with our worst enemies. All I mean, there were planes flying from secret planes going from Caracas to Tehran. I mean, secret flights that happened, as I recall reading, from these two countries. I mean, I'm sure they were not carrying tourists, and
No, no.
they were, yeah. So, I but the lack of seriousness, and I'll put it that way, the lack of seriousness on the part of the Democrats is appalling. Because
Yes.
what they should do is say, look, we agree with him. In fact, when we were in power, we put a bounty of $25 million on his head. Remember that when the Biden administration did that?
Oh, sure.
And we're happy that he got arrested, and we wish everybody well. But we do have some concerns about this idea that we're going to run the country, and let's talk about that. That's a fair criticism, Bill.
That's a fair criticism. Another fair criticism would be that the president, in his initial statement, did not explain things very well at all. It was a poor performance. I was very disappointed. It was one of the most important statements he would be making to the American people, and it's obvious that he was not prepared. And he should be legitimately criticized for not completely explaining what we were doing. But
I
yeah,
think he
look.
also spoke too long.
Oh yes, well
When
he
you're
always
talking
does.
about the Saturday press conference or
Sure,
whatever that
yeah,
was, I
kind of a
thought he spoke
disaster.
too long and he got into politics where he shouldn't, about the 2020 election and all of that. Those may be all very legitimate topics, but I think it should have been more of this is what we did today. This is the action. This is why we did it. And then let the Secretary of Defense or Marco Rubio, who sometimes can explain things better than the president can,
Oh, very much better.
yeah, and let him do the talking. But you're right. I thought President Trump spoke too long that morning. But he is the president. Who's going to take the microphone away? I guess. But
Well, that was it. But I was looking at the faces behind him of Rubio and the others. while he was speaking, and he didn't. They were looking down. I think it was the first time they've heard of some of these things. Obviously, not from a political viewpoint, well executed. And then he started making these foolish statements. We're going to run Venezuela without ever having told the people who were going to be put in charge of doing it. Not the greatest performance in the world, but certainly getting Maduro out of power was a great first step.
Absolutely. Now, I'm concerned about who's going to run Venezuela because that's a lot of country to run, and exactly what kind of occupation we're talking about. I my guess, and just a guess, is that we're finding out quickly of the people right now in charge who's going to play ball, and we will get rid of them as soon as possible if they don't play ball. I do agree with the president that something has to be done about the oil industry. So I'm glad that he's doing that because the oil
Yes,
industry is really the ticket to success.
yes.
If they can get those oil fields pumping again, Venezuela will be rich very quickly because that's a lot of oil that they have. So that has to be done. I agree with that. And I'm glad to see that American companies are going to be involved in it. But the only concern I have is more the politics of it. So this is why I would have preferred if President Trump had said Maduro is out and we're going to recognize the man who won the election,
Yes,
which we
yes.
had before, and say he's now the president and he's the one we recognize. And anybody related to Maduro, we don't recognize you. And if you've got a problem with that, well, we'll take care of you. Something
Well,
like
I
that.
think that's very good, and also I don't know what he has against this woman who won the Nobel Peace Prize and who is so pro-Trump. I mean, very pro-Trump, very pro-American, and he made some disparaging remarks about her. I don't get that, and I think it is alarming to some Venezuelans because she's a ready-made world figure
Right.
who is pro-Trump, and he said she wasn't ready or she doesn't have the respect of the people, and then started babbling. But I think that the coming days are going to be very critical because Congress, or at least the leaders of Congress, are going to be briefed tonight by the key members of the administration, and then we'll have to take it from there. But because the action in Venezuela is not going to stop. I mean, there could still be resistance. There could also be actions by the Venezuelan police against their own people, and I think many Americans don't feel we have complete control.
No, and in fact, I think that is already happening. I read something that the police is going after people with flags of the United States because there were some marches in Caracas too in
Yes,
favor of the operation. But in my opinion, the most legitimate thing to do is to name the man. His name is Gonzalez, who won the election. Put him in and say he's now the president we recognize. And then my guess is that many in the army will follow him. And the elements that don't want to follow him, then you might have to take care of those. I don't now. As far as that lady Machado, I don't know exactly what the president was saying,
yes,
but one thing that I've heard from other Venezuelans, and I heard this before, is that the problem in Venezuela is that the leaders of the opposition are not in Venezuela; they're not living there.
that's right.
So they're not, they're not there running the country in a way or have any ties to the military or whatever. That may be what they meant by not, by not giving him the authority right away. But I would have done so. I think the world would have seen this differently if we had said, okay, Mr. Gonzalez, you won the election. You're the president. We support you. I think.
Yes, well, yes, and I mean, on D-Day in 1944, once the invasion had been announced and the men were on the beaches, President Roosevelt had the leaders of the countries, the in exile leaders of the country involved, getting on the air and talking to their people,
Right.
and I think in this particular case we didn't do that, and I think that once he started talking about people who might replace the Maduros, it got all jumbled and confused, and he got confused. So I think there's going to be some repair work that'll have to be done in the next few days.
I hope so, and he ought to let Rubio do it,
Yes,
because I think Rubio is in my opinion, can communicate these ideas honestly sometimes better than President Trump.
yeah.
Let me ask you a larger question about President Trump's leadership. I mean, he looks stronger and stronger. I know that sometimes his language is not maybe the most or the best, but he looks awfully strong. I mean, if you're sitting in China or Taiwan or whatever, Russia, and you've seen these military operations and the president's willingness to use the military and the president's willingness to bring back the Monroe Doctrine, these are messages that have to make you respect him. You may not like him,
Yes,
but you got to respect the guy.
yes.
There was an article that came out the other day saying that Trump was really the leader of Europe right now.
Well, I think yes, I've heard that expressed several different ways. The leader of Europe or the leader of the free world, and that probably is true. But the leaders of Europe may not know it's true. And whenever something happens internationally, they get on the air immediately, representing the wisdom
Right,
of our
right.
civilization, which they are not running in any way, shape, or form today. But I do agree with you. There may be some surface support for Trump in Europe right now, and some genuine support. But it's obvious also a lot of countries are frightened of him. Well, I'd rather have them frightened of them than not. But he's got to do a better job internationally.
Yeah, and communication is the key here. But at the same time, I if I was in France, I don't know what power I have anyway. What power does Macron have, or
I
any of these European leaders? I mean, they don't have an army. All they have is what, the European Union, and what is that?
They have good coffee shops.
They have good coffee
Yes.
shops, and they deliver good speeches,
That's-
and they keep telling you that the most important people in the planet. But okay, so what? I mean, what?
Well,
It,
France is in terrible condition,
sure.
really terrible condition, and there are a lot of people trying to get out of France. The government of France seems, as usual, weak, and it probably should be changed. Whether it will be, I don't know. Another country in terrible condition right now, and it's critically important, is Iran.
Yes.
They don't have their friend Barack Obama in the White House to give them trillions or millions of dollars. They are really on the edge, and truly on the edge. The country is broken. It's broke. It cannot feed its people. It is administratively breaking down, and there are serious people whose opinions I respect, who say this is the moment to strike and just get rid of the ayatollahs and give them a way out, give them a free passage to Brooklyn or something, and
Well, they
and
may not want to take Brooklyn because they have a
yeah,
big jail there.
there is a big jail. Yes,
Yeah, and they might say, "Wait a minute, that's a trick. You're going to put me in jail with Maduro."
yes,
So that but they may, I don't know, they may go to Paris. Didn't Khomeini went to Paris before he came to Iran or
yes,
something like that? I
yes.
mean,
That was the first
the
Ayatollah.
first
Yes,
time, yeah,
he
the
was
first
living there.
Ayatollah.
He was living there,
And
and
Arafat was living in, or his wife or widow lives in
living in
Paris, I
Paris
think. Yeah.
and
Paris
getting a
seems
lot.
to attract a lot of these characters, Bill.
Yeah, yeah, yes, yes. I was actually speaking of attraction. I was thrilled this morning when Maduro was being taken to Brooklyn because I grew up in Brooklyn and I
Yes.
recognized so many of the sites when the
Right.
cars were going by. So I used to use that bridge. I know that.
Well, it's only a shame. It's a shame that Ebbets is not there,
Oh, of
because
course
I'm
not.
sure Maduro, being a baseball fan, would have enjoyed driving by the old Ebbets.
Yes, and and
And
and and and, and laying a wreath at the old home plate.
right,
Uh,
right. I'm sure he would have
say,
done that.
I'm a Brooklyn Dodger fan.
That's right. Well,
um,
he is probably a Dodger fan. Everybody seems to be that these days,
yes,
but in the other city, not
that's right.
not in Brooklyn. But Let me bring up another topic, Bill, before we close, and that's the state of the Democrat Party. We kind of talked about it before, but the party they're not serious about anything,
No,
except
that
they have to oppose Trump at every opportunity.
yes,
Instead of saying, okay, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, instead of saying, okay, we don't like Trump, but we're glad that he did this, and let's talk with him and make sure that whatever we do as a country turns out good. Because if it turns out good, everybody wins, Democrats or Republicans. In other words, instead of being serious co-players, it's just if Trump says yes, they have to say no. It's stupid.
that's it. With the exception of a few Democrats who have some sense of responsibility, and other Democrats from Florida who may represent communities with a
Right.
large number of Venezuelan emigres. But with the exception of that, their first response is always to kowtow to the far left of their party, and I'm afraid. I say party, put the word in quotes. Is it a Democratic Party? I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, they don't have to seem to have any real organization, and maybe it's time for them to retire. Uh,
Well, they used to have an office. Now they have a PO box. So
yes,
maybe that tells you that tells you a lot right there. But it is absolutely stunning to see them on television play this constitutional card that he has to go to Congress. I mean, these are the same people that never did that when President Obama used the military,
yes,
or President Biden. And it's like but they don't seem to have the ability to say, you know what, like, okay, like you and I did this when President Obama took out Bin Laden. I remember we had a conversation back then, and we both said, "Hey, I'm glad he did it. Congratulations to him for pulling the trigger or doing the operation. That's good for the country." They don't seem to have
yes.
the ability to do that.
No, no, because the people who rule them don't really care about the country.
That's it.
I mean, the Democratic Party has been moving to the left and moving to the left and moving to the left. Now they have gone over the top.
Right.
They really have. There have been incidences like this in American history, but these people who run the Democratic Party, let's be frank about it, they don't much like the United States.
Not the ones I'm seeing, not the
No.
ones I see on TV. I'm sure there's some out there who do, but the ones I see on TV, it seems like they're always nitpicking everything the United States does.
Oh, sure,
I
especially
mean, they
internationally. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's like, everything that, everything, it's like if they're black, if they're part of the black or the whatever black congressional caucus, they act as if we're still living in Mississippi 1949,
That's right. Yeah.
that no progress has been made, which is ridiculous. The progress that has been made is tremendous. Um, and if there are liberals from California, well, they're
They're
talking to their
they're
own base, I
liberals from
guess.
California. They basically
Yeah,
are living in another world.
they are.
It's their private world, and and yet, look, strange things happen in politics. They could win a national
Oh,
election
absolutely.
or
That's
win
what.
enough votes in the House to control the House of Representatives, uh, and that's what I'm so afraid of. If they get real power, that things will get much worse
That's right,
before they get
and they
better.
can do it because the margin of victory is not that big in the House, so it could very well happen. And most of our presidential elections. I mean, the last time we had a presidential candidate, I was looking this up. The last time we had a presidential candidate who got 54% of the popular vote
Yeah.
was George Bush in 1988.
Yes.
Every other president elected since Bush, starting in 92, 96, and all the way to 24, has barely gotten over 50%.
That's right.
And the election is really close. It comes down to 100,000 votes here, 20,000 votes there. So it's a bitterly divided country, so anything can happen. And
Well,
it,
and anything might, I'm very much concerned about the president's health, uh, and I'm very much concerned about the condition of the Republican Party as a party, because with Trump in the lead, they at least follow Trump. I don't know what would happen if Trump were suddenly not there.
right.
There are elements in the Republican Party that are very, very disturbing. I mean,
They are.
on the fringe right, and also I might add, I think that we ought to take a closer look at the vice president. He never seems to be around. Have you noticed that? He just, you would think that he would be there next to the president making that announcement. He wasn't there. And I want to know what the vice president of the United States is doing and what he will do if he suddenly had to take office.
because he's next.
Yes, and he doesn't seem to be. He doesn't seem to be in line with the general views of most Republicans.
Well, I was surprised that he was not there Saturday morning. They said the reason he wasn't there during the military, when they were watching the military operation, is that they didn't want to tip off that something big was happening.
Yes.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
But I was surprised he didn't go to the Saturday morning meeting or press conference, because he was present when we dropped the bombs in Iran.
Yes.
He was there that night. So, well, we will see, Bill. I think it's going to be, as you always like to say, an exciting year.
It will be an exciting year. We live
we'll
in interesting times. As
we sure do. And here's the best part of it all, Bill. Here's the best part of January the 5th. When I say January 5th, the best part is that the baseball season is 90 days away.
That's right. That's right. And baseball, ironically, if our interest in Latin America grows, we may have an entirely new area from which to draw the next generation of great players.
Well, there's already quite a few actually that come from Dominican, and they used to come a lot from Cuba, but not as much anymore. But yeah, I mean, there's always that possibility there. Heck, you never know. They might even become American football fans. You never know.
that could happen. Yes.
But the best part of it all is that baseball will begin in 90 days. And of course, they used to start a little later. When you remember Brooklyn, they usually started the season back then around the 18th or 15th of April.
Yes.
And now they started early because they got a longer postseason. And
well, sure. That was the era of 154 games.
That's right. Now it's 162, and they are playing on November 1st.
Yes.
Which, of course, means that if your stadium doesn't have a roof, it gets a little cold.
Yes, it does. So, well, I haven't been in the stadium in many, many years, so I'm still hoping the Brooklyn Dodgers will sneak back to Brooklyn and reestablish themselves as the one true faith.
But there you go. Yeah. There you go. Well, but only if they rebuild Ebbets Field, right?
Of course, they have to do that.
Yeah, they have to rebuild that. Well, Bill, have a great day, and as always, thank you for your time, and we'll be talking again next week.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it, Silvio.
Thank you very much. Our good friend, Bill Katz, the editor of Urgent Agenda, a week or a year that started with a lot of stuff going on. What can I tell you? And I have a funny feeling there's going to be a lot more going on this year with the election and all of that coming up. So welcome to the age of Trump, when every minute, every hour is extremely exciting. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Happy New Year again to everybody, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. This is Silvio from Dallas.